Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Thursday. All of our guests today, including John Shannon, standing by. Brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. Giants would like to thank their fans for their support this season at the LEC and can't wait to welcome them back for the 2023-2024 campaign. Get your season tickets for next year now at vancouvergiants.com/season tickets. Vegas Golden Knights Parade Saturday on the Strip, or at least part of it will be on the Strip. Joining us now, NHL Analyst, co-host of the Bob McCown podcast, John Shannon. Thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm great, boys. You?
Very, very good. Well, what can other teams, such a unique situation, but what can other teams in the NHL learn from Vegas's success?
Well, this is a copycat league, Donnie. I don't think there's any question about that. And what you have to wonder, when you look at that roster that won the Stanley Cup the other night, there was one Vegas draft pick in the starting 20. One, Nick Hague. Mm-hmm. Do you get pressure from your owner or from upper management to go out and use your draft picks as assets, as currency to go trade and then worry about the draft at a future time? I just wonder if more teams who have decided that they're going to build through the draft and live through the draft are going to look back and say, you know what, maybe we should give up that second rounder. Maybe we should give up that first rounder. Edmonton has given up the last two first rounders in their drafts in order to try to get better. And it still hasn't paid off, but they got Matthias Ekholm for 3 more years. Are teams going to start using draft picks more as currency in order to win now and pay the price later?
So what you're saying, John, the Canucks are on the right path.
If you can tell me what path that is, Donnie, I will give you $1 million.
Hey, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but I will. What was your original opinion of the NHL expanding to Vegas?
Oh, I think we all had doubts. I really do. And I don't know if you remember, but long before the team was awarded, Gary Bettman allowed Bill Foley to go out and do a survey and take deposits on season tickets. And within 6 days, they had 13,000 people prepared to pay for season tickets. And it was at that point that you said, wow, maybe there is something to it. The NHL has really found a successful equation, not in big markets, but in mid-sized markets, in Vegas, in Columbus, in Nashville. Really, those towns have become really good hockey towns. We're going to start hearing about Salt Lake City in that same realm as a potential quality hockey town when we hear, I think, a year from now that Arizona might be moving there. You know, there is something to be said for finding a good market and working with it rather than trying to explore markets that are already overexposed with too many other professional sports and college sports.
John, the early word is the ratings for the Stanley Cup Finals not good. I think it was down 43%. Do we just gotta come to the fact that it's not going to be big ratings ever in the U.S. and they're just going to be strong in certain markets?
Well, this is the first time that the Stanley Cup Final was completely on cable since 1994 in the United States. So that's one thing. But the other aspect is that on the other side of my comment about mid markets is that they aren't big markets. Vegas is not a big TV market. It's in the top 30, but it's not in the top 10. South Florida, you're fighting for fans all the time with other sports teams and lifestyle. So that it doesn't surprise me that they didn't do as well as they thought they would. And in our country, I haven't seen the numbers for our country yet, but without a Canadian team, a dominant Canadian team, without Toronto, without Montreal, perhaps Edmonton and Vancouver, the interest has kind of waned in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Once we get rid of Canadian teams, the numbers drop precipitously. And I think that that's something that everybody's aware of, and you hope that the games are exciting and people will buy in and come back. I fully expect that it probably started below 1 million people in Canada for game one. And by the time the cup was given out the other night, it was probably closer to 1.5 or 1.6 million.
All right, John, the NHL draft July 1st. Get ready. Could be some fireworks, some blockbusters, maybe in Vancouver. Are you expecting some big names to change uniforms here in the next 2 to 3 weeks?
I would not be surprised to see some names before the draft, Rick, in order to try to make sure that you are in a position to draft. Alex DeBrincat, what we saw yesterday with the Senators potentially firing for arbitration means that they control him for 1 year. Pierre-Luc Dubois, they still control for 1 more year. I think it's probably in the best interest of both the Senators, even though ownership it's not up for grabs, but it's still a little tentative between DeBrincat and Dubois and Winnipeg. I think they want to probably get rid of them sooner than later, and the bidding process, I'm sure, has already started.
In Ottawa, John, what sold the Melnicks, the NHL, on Michael Andlauer?
Well, he's a known commodity. I've sat in Board of Governors meetings when Michael Andlauer represented the Montreal Canadiens. So he's one of the inside guys already. I truly believe from the beginning, when the estate put the club up for sale, that Gary Bettman probably took a nod at Michael Andlauer right away. And I think that this probably makes the most sense. Andlauer is a good, solid businessman, a passionate hockey man, understands how Ottawa will work as a city. I think it's great that we found another Canadian owner for a Canadian hockey team, and that's important. So I think Michael Andlauer will be an asset, and you won't be seeing press conferences like Eugene used to have about surprising everybody in the organization what he was going to do. Andlauer is a solid citizen.
Yeah. Marty Walsh, new NHLPA executive director. He's going to be on our show tomorrow. Maybe you can help us out with the issues we want to tackle with him. What are the biggest issues he has to tackle, John?
Well, I think that the paying off of the escrow. They made a decision not to pay off the escrow in order not to elevate the cap this year, which probably made a few of the players inside the union who are unrestricted free agents not very happy. I think that's the biggest issue. I think the whole marketing aspect of what the Players Association is supposed to do and how to grow hockey-related revenue, there has to be concern with him about what's going on in Arizona because that's dragging down HRR. And I think, Don Fears was the greatest advocate for international hockey, for the World Cup, for Olympics. I would suspect that that's going to be high on the list. Mind you, it's all going to get even a little muckier when you consider what the Russians are doing in Ukraine and now what even the Russians are doing in relationships with our own country. One more,
John. Yesterday, Bell Media cutting nine radio stations, 1,300 jobs lost. What would you tell somebody right now, maybe a youngster who wants to get into the broadcast business?
Be creative. You two guys are great examples of that. This show is a great example of that. There are still as many, if not more, consumers of sports in Canada, in the United States, than ever before. How they consume it is really the challenge. Think outside the box. The podcast world is the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
There are no rules. And if you can navigate yourself through that, then you're going to be fine. But if you have a dream to be in sports media, do not give up, but find a way to be creative and don't rely on other people to deliver the audience for you. Try to deliver it yourself.
Well said. John, thanks for this. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
Cheers, boys.
You bet.